All right. Say as normal, we'll go from upper left to bottom right. Mr. Berger, you're on the upper left.
All righty. Well, you've got to let me share there, Greg.
Well, okay. That's easy enough. Done?
Done?
Yep.
All righty. As we left off last month, I was working on the hull of the Campbell, and I'll take it up from there. I finished the hull, all of the welding lines and so forth, and what we have here, if the picture is clear, are some of the gratings for the sea chests and things which I etched and installed. And so I continued on the underhull section of the boat. And the next slide here shows the completion of the beads and some of the sea chests. Then I moved on to the propeller bosses and shafts. These are some castings that I made from molds that I produced for the boat. Here are some patterns and the propeller blades for the left and right screws. Let me see. Okay, here's the molds. I do all my own mold making. It's just the silicone molds using Micromark's materials because you can buy it in small enough quantities and it won't go bad over time. Okay, now why am I? Oh, there we go. And here's some of the castings for the blades, if that is of any interest.
So, Gene, did you simulate the exact pitch of those props? That's amazing.
I made one master blade of each screw, left and right, and then had produced them in quantities enough to put together my screws. These were done from drawings that I had and photographs. So I mean, they're as accurate as I can make them by eye. And here's the test fitting of the assembled pieces on the underside of the hull. Obviously, the hull at this point has not been painted. I wanted to wait until I got all the components assembled. The hull assemblies include, as John noted, it has the rope guards, which I had no idea even what they were. But, I saw them in the pictures and therefore they were produced. There is the condenser intake, which I had a question for John last month, and subsequently was able to locate photographs and diagrams online and was able to then put together a reasonable facsimile of the item. So I'm fairly happy with the way that turned out. It would have been an awfully ugly hole without it. Then I went on to start painting the undersides. With all of the priming and so forth done, it was on to paint. And that's what I pretty much spent most of the month doing, masking and painting. 2 hours of masking, 5 minutes of painting, one color at a time. With the Measure 32 paint scheme, it was kind of tedious at times, trying to get things lined up and masked and so forth. Okay, here are the propeller shafts and things installed and starting to get them arranged. One interesting note that the entrance into the hull are staggered, and the shafts do come out at different angles due to the placement of the fore and aft engine rooms. So that's all faithfully reproduced. And the paint scheme is slowly coming together with the Measure 32. The Campbell was was delivered in this measure in 44. And I don't think it lived in that livery for very long because I don't know. I don't think the paint ever dried on these boats when they were delivered before they changed to another scheme and then overpainted and this and that. So is there a question? Or? Okay. Just a kind of a close-up of the entrance to one of the propellers with the whatever that is, the rope guard, I guess.
Rope guard.
Yeah, yeah.
Dean, are the nuts part of your casting, or did you add those afterwards?
No, those were added afterwards. They are from a company, Meng, M-E-N-G. They have a whole line of little plastic nuts and bolts without screws, washers, in all kinds of scales. They're aimed more at the armor modelers, but yeah, these bolts and things, they come in all scales. So yeah, these were added afterwards.
I'm trying to visualize this. Just how big is it? I mean,
The diameter of the shaft is maybe 3/16 of an inch. That's maybe a 1/4 inch.
the little seams just look tremendous there.
So the photograph is actually on my monitor about 3 times actual size, and it still looks incredible.
It's yeah. Well, this particular one worked out well. Usually I don't like showing details this close up because then you start seeing, the molecular structure of the paint and it looks like a moonscape. But no, this turned out pretty well, and it gives off the welding lines nicely. And so. And
Gene, I think I see some porosity in one of those welds.
yes, there are. We're going to have to take that longshoreman to task on that.
That's some linear indications maybe, huh?
Just another view of the propeller shafts as they were mounted, and a little bit of cleanup work yet to do. And on the other side of the measure 32.
You airbrush, Gene, or is this rattle cans?
No, this I have an airbrush. I bought a nice German airbrush, and I forget the name of it. It has a hyphenated name, and until this model, I always used a single action, never used a double action because I just didn't have any experience with it, and I was afraid of it. Now I don't use anything else, but now that I've learned how to use it, I mean, it's an excellent unit. It comes. You can dial down the pressure to nothing. You can preset the paint ratio. So I'll mention it next time around. But it's a very nice unit. I picked up at one of the shows last. When was it? A couple of years ago, maybe.
One of the H&S's.
Pardon?
Is that one of the H&S's? Heckler and something.
Could be. It's a German one.
I think I have the same one. It's a great gun, and you can replace the tips so that you can get 3 different size needles for it.
Yeah, and it's infinitely variable and adjustable. And like I said, I was always afraid of a double action because I just didn't have any experience with it. But it doesn't take long before you're hooked. But here shows the nice welding lines and the paint. I painted the numbers on because I couldn't find numbers big enough. And then the draft numbers are photo etched raised letters or numbers that are then glued on. As is the name of the boat on the back. One neat thing about this camouflage scheme, and I didn't come to realize it until after I started to paint it on, is how the left and right sides kind of blended together. And if you viewed the hull from different aspects, different deck levels and so forth. The lines kind of just key in together, which you wouldn't see otherwise unless you kind of viewed it from a particular angle. So I guess someone knew what they were trying to achieve. Yeah, here the rudders are installed and a little more of the painting done.
What's something about camouflage schemes like this is because I haven't done any of this yet. I want to try to do it once at some point, but there's a difference. Some of the publications that I read, there's a difference between shipyard applied camouflage versus in situ camouflage. And some of the dazzle patterns, they were saying that the shipyard versions, the demarcation lines between the colors for the most part were very distinct. Whereas okay, we had a bunch of boatswains hanging over the side and they painted the hull. There were the demarcation lines are a lot more blended or cloudy, that kind of thing, blotchy.
Yeah. And also there was, from the diagram that I had, I downloaded for the Measure 32.
Yes.
The scheme closely matches that which was actually painted, but viewing photographs of the actual vessel, there are slight variances. So I tried to take those into account and disregarded that which was on the diagram, the perfect drawing, because I guess sailors just don't listen to instructions, or it just was impractical to paint it how it was drawn out. So moving on, I then etched my portholes. These were the porthole frames, and they were then for the bridge and a few others elsewhere. They were brass with a little bit of a lip. I'll put some glazing in after it's all finished. Let me see. That one. Masking. Did I say it took 2 hours of masking to accomplish 5 minutes of painting? Yeah, that was kind of tedious, but it paid off in the end because you get nice sharp lines and so forth. This was the breakwater, and this was fairly reminiscent of all over the rest of the hull. Here's the stack. Ready to be installed with the goofy logo on it. The ship at one point sported this. I guess some sailor artist convinced the captain that they needed a logo, so they painted it on board. One of the inlet grates for the engine room. Yes. What ship wouldn't have zincs? I put about 80 zincs on this thing, and the pattern was modeled after the Slater, which I had many photographs of. This is the Slater in dry dock. So based upon the photographs, I then emulated this pattern, figuring that it would be probably typical of this kind of vessel, since the Slater was also a DE of very similar hull design.
I'm looking at this photograph and I'm thinking, oh, that's your model.
Oh, that's the real boat. This is the model.
Not a lot of difference.
So moving along, there are all the zincs. And then moving on to the upper hull to try and tie in all of the patterns. And I mean, like I said, it took a while, but it paid off in the end. And I like the way the paint lines kind of flow from one level to the next when viewed. It was purposely done that way, I guess. So, and this is pretty much as the boat sits today. I've got all the upper structures painted, the deck, everything. Now I can move on to the candy and put all the little bits and pieces on it.
That's where you left off with the Olympia. So now what happens?
Well, So I best not take a breath because otherwise I might be tempted. And there it is with a photograph of the prototype. Hopefully I've got it just about right. And there's the diagram that I downloaded showing the perfect scheme. So I think I got it pretty close. Next month, I'll be moving on to, like I said, some of the jewelry and stuff that's going to be hung on it, starting out with one of the guns. I wanted to depict the interior of these. This is a casting or a 3D printed casting. It's solid, not solid, but it's not opened. And I wanted to be able to see a gun and the interior through open doors. So I surgically removed the bottom of it and inserted another 3D printed component, or at least parts of it, of the gun. And I then cobbled it together. And this is a kind of a mock-up of what you might potentially see of the interior. It should be pretty much the breech aft end of the gun, and I'll put all of the wiring and structural components that I can without getting too crazy, because you're not going to be able to see much through the door. But this was just a brief glimpse of what you might imagine of the interior of the gun, and I'll have more of that next month when I get to that point. And
Not being able to see the detail hasn't stopped you before, Gene.
I know.
Gene,
What?
was that diamond plate printed into that mount, or did you add?
Oh no, the diamond plate is totally new. I didn't want to show too many pictures. Basically, what I did, I cut the bottom of the gun out so that I could have access to the interior. I then took the bottom and put diamond plate on it and mounted the gun, or at least the breech portion of it, to that to flesh it out. So the diamond plate is all new. That's not part of the casting.
Okay.
And then the barrel obviously had to be cut off because it wouldn't go through the gun. I had to use the gun portion and then cut off the back end of it and then mated it to the breech once I got it all lined up inside. So when I put the bottom of the hull gun back into the shell, everything will line up, which I've accomplished at this point. And now it's just a matter of finishing out the inside of the shell, finishing the gun, and finishing whatever details that I have photographs of the interior. So it's going to be pretty well overdone, unfortunately, as I usually tend to do. I had intended to do that to one of the to the superstructure, even possibly the bridge, but I opted against that and then regretted when I sealed it all up. So I decided to open up the gun to make up for that. Well, that's it. That's it for this month. Next month I'll have little parts to show.
Dean, can I ask a quick question? Did you have those 3D printed by Shapeways, or do you do your own?
No. These came from Shapeways, from a designer named
Stefan?
Yes, Stefan. Yeah. He has a remarkable inventory of bits and pieces and from World War II era guns and components. I mean, just perusing his shop is amazing, and he's a very easy guy to work with. A lot of these components were not readily available, and I had him either redesign, rescale, or completely from scratch design for me. and he was very, very accommodable and, accommodating. So I'm grateful for some of the components that I got from him, because I would not have been able to do it in this lifetime to the detail that he had already provided. So I figured, why not, so, I mean, it's still a scratch-ish project with some 3D printed components, and of course the brass work I do my own, then the casting I have done my own. But 3D printing has changed the whole landscape. It's just, I don't know however else you can do stuff like this easily anyway. So I've embraced the dark side. Sorry.
We're going to take a break from show and tell to recognize the guest that came in late. Floyd, glad to see you here. He was invited by Ryland, and other than that, I know nothing about Floyd. So if you wouldn't mind, Floyd, speak up for a moment and tell us a little bit about yourself.
Sure. I'm Floyd Kirshner. I live in Seattle, and I'm the president of the Puget Sound Ship Modelers Group. And I am surprised to see 20 people in one meeting. We consider 7 a real good attendance in our meetings. And definitely thank you. It's a little bit early for me. That's why I'm a little bit late. I didn't quite make it at 7 a.m.
Well, glad you made it late. Better late than never.
Thank you.
And how do you know Ryland? Through the NRG or?
Mostly through the website. And he's been my crutch while I build the Medway longboat.
Okay. Okay, great to have you. And someone who's almost a guest, Dean Sword. First meeting he's been to for a long time. Really good to see you.
It's been a while. It's been a while, but the ability to do something like this made me available to come online this morning.
I was making phone calls to people we hadn't seen in a while. You hadn't been to a meeting well before the COVID thing started, and I miss having you there.
I think the last time I came was the celebration over at the Mariners Museum. That's been what, 2 years ago, 3 years ago?
All right. Well, it's really good to have you back.
Well, thanks. But this Saturday morning thing is just not worked for me, unfortunately. And but I've kept paying my dues. And
I noticed that. Yeah.
I read the newsletter faithfully. Unfortunately, a lot of the folks that I've known through Hampton Roads have passed on to other endeavors, or have just simply passed on. But I'm here, hanging in there.
Good to know. Good to know. Okay. Anyone else join late that I missed? Let me take a peek here. No guess. John Cork, I don't think he was. Oh, no, he was there at the beginning. Pat, I don't know if is that Pat Roll? Another. No picture.
At Derby.
Okay. Oh, Derby. Yeah, you're right. Okay, back to show and tell then. Sean, do you have anything to show today? Unmute or shake your head back and forth or nod up and down.
Did you say John or Sean?
Huh?
Which did you say, John or Sean?
Sean.
Oh, you're gonna make me come up behind Gene. Thanks.
Well, that's the luck of the draw.
I'm gonna try to see if I can share. I'm gonna try to see if I can do a Gene, but nowhere to his.
I was going left to right, and I would be next instead of you, but I've got nothing to show. So there you go.
Okay, so here's. Not sure if I can do this.
Well,
Okay.
we see your folder.
You see the folder, but not the actual picture?
Yeah, no, well, I see several of them, but if you stab on one, it should.
Yeah, I did. Okay, so it didn't come up.
Yeah,
he-
so what
he
you're gonna
took-
have to go back to your share screen and pick the window that you just opened.
Ah, okay.
Or you
Let
can
me-
share the entire desktop. You're just sharing that
let me see.
Explorer
So-
folder.
So I'm trying, yeah, I'm doing horrible with this because it's not,
Okay, stop sharing and then pick and then start again, but instead of picking the Windows folder, pick the entire window.
there we go. Okay, I see it now. Okay, how's that?
Yeah.
There you go.
Much
I'm
better.
gonna get there at some point. All right, so this is my siren model that I've been working on. I've now done the planking above the whales. I have not put the shear strake on yet, but I have started, I did do the parts around the gun openings and so forth. I've sanded the starboard side down. I still have to hit it with probably 320 just to make sure I don't have any scratches before I put a finish on. And I haven't done anything yet with the port side as far as sanding. So this is just the shot of the bow with my planking going into the stem. I still have some cleanup to do. Like I said, some final sanding to get everything in. For the seams, I ended up using a magic marker. In the past, I had used wood glue, darkened. But in this instance, I really liked how the magic marker came out. I saw it on an NRG build and decided I would try it. The wood is not the kit wood. This is all maple that I milled. And I want to thank Henry for helping me with that. He gave me a tool that was incredibly invalid, as Greg had said in the newsletter. Tools make a huge difference, and Henry's contribution for me really helped out with that. This is a picture of the starboard side. Like I said, all the planking is done. It's been sanded to 220, but I'm going to take it down to probably 320, maybe 400. And then lastly, picture of the stern. One more, just one of the shots of my port openings. Really had a hard time with the port opening. You can see I still got some glue to clean out of them. The red paint, I followed what Chuck had in his Practum. 40 coats of red artist paint was about what it took to get to the right color. The openings themselves, the port side, the reason it's a little bit further behind than the starboard side, because I literally deconstructed the port side. For my first attempt, I didn't like how the port openings had come out. They were a little more choppier than what you see here at, really high magnification. I ended up building a plastic template that fit inside the port that gave me that 1/32 opening around the port to give me the right profile that I was looking for. And that's all I got.
Looks really good.
Beautiful.
Thank you. It's nowhere near jeans.
Okay, the order's shuffled again. Tom, Rosario, do you have anything?
Yeah,
Yeah.
just before I do a screen share, you could see that I'm in my shop here. And if you look in the background, you'll note that Liverpool is gone. And the reason why Liverpool is gone is Liverpool is complete, except for the figures that I need to paint. Okay, there's going to be 6 crew members on the ship. And what you see on my workbench is the upturned hull of a Medway longboat. And then behind that, you see Dapper Tom. And what I decided to do before I get heavily into something else, which is probably going to be a resin kit that I'm going to try to learn airbrushing on. So I'm going to be reaching out for help. So I decided what I'm going to do is I'm going to repair a bunch of models that need to be repaired. And the Dapper Tom is one of them. So I'm going to be repairing the rigging on that. It needs to be rigged because I had it out on a table outside and one of my grandsons winged the ball at it. Not on purpose. It just happened to end up there. So I'll be taking care of that. And then I have to finish the Megway longboat. And then I think I'll go on to my resin kit. But if you permit me to screen share now, let me open up the photos first. Okay, and then we go to a screen share, which is there. Okay, can you folks see that?
Yes.
Okay, well, this is Liverpool. As she is now, I have it temporarily sitting on top of my plexiglass case that I have my wasp in. It's you notice I have I have the red ensign, I have the jack up on the bowsprit there. There are 3 boats in the waist. We have a cutter, a pinnace, and then a longboat. Let's go to another photograph. Okay, these anchors were purchased from Chuck. What's interesting about it is you could see this figure, this drunken sailor over here. When I first put these on, I'm thinking, wow, these are pretty big anchors. But then actually he made them for me, and where I got the information from in steel for a 28 gun frigate, which is what the Liverpool was, it carried a 3,900 weight anchor. 100 weight is 112 pounds. So each of these anchors weighs 4,000 pounds. Okay, basically 2¼ tons, over 4,000 pounds. Also, the dimensions in steel are very specific. So the length of the shank is over 14 feet. So if you look at this drunken sailor, and the drunken sailor is just a tad over 5 feet, you see that it's correct. Okay. All right. And here's a broadside view taken from a little bit of above. There's the jack. Okay. I put a blue pennant. All the research I found basically was at the time they had squadron pennants streaming from the mainmast. I just elected to put this in the blue squadron. It could have been in the red squadron as well. I decided to put it in the blue squadron. Okay, I got other pictures. Why are they not coming out? Okay, and here's another one taken a while ago. One more. Let's go over to here. All right, same thing over again. Anyway, so that's where it's at. I've got the 5 figures to put on. Basically 1 or 2 officers and the rest the midshipmen and some crew. And that's basically it. Now, what I've been doing now is, since I'm done finally, I'm finally completed with this model, and this model went on for a long time. So what I took the last day and a half doing is basically cleaning all the stuff out of my shop that doesn't need to be here anymore and putting it away, so that now I have more space to work on what I was working on the new stuff. And that's the story. I'm figuring that repairing the rigging on the Dapper Tom will probably be about a week, and then probably about a month and a half to finish the longboat. And then I'll move on to other things. I have several 350 scale resin kits. I have destroyers, cruisers, battleships, etc. And I think I'm going to take a swipe at doing dazzle camouflage. So we'll see what happens. Of course, I have to learn how to use an airbrush first.
A month and a half to finish your longboat?
Well, I'm not playing. I'm not going to mast it or rig it. The bottom line, frankly, is just to put this in perspective. I'm going to get a plexiglass box to put over the top of the Liverpool, and it's probably going to cost between $280 and $310 to do it. And frankly, the Megway longboat, with all respect to Chuck and everybody else, it's a rowboat. Okay, so why am I going to put a $300 case over the top of a rowboat? It's like, I mean, I know it had a sailing rig to it, but it's a rowboat, and frankly, I don't want to take up a lot of space with the mod. It'll be a beautiful model. It just won't be rigged.
Yeah.
Well, putting only 5 figures on your boat, you must have a lot of confidence in your workmanship. I'll probably put 10 times as many on mine.
I got to tell you, Gene, like Sean had mentioned, me following you, it's like your detail is just absolutely incredible. I'm at basically the same scale you are, and well, you're 1/4 inch, right? Okay, I'm at 1/8 inch, so I'm okay. So, but still, I just your detail is just incredible to me. And just as an aside, it's interesting how beauty's in the eye of the beholder. If I show this model to folks in my club, if I show it to my son, if I show it to people who appreciate historical accuracy, I get, oh, gee, that's great, blah, 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 blah. I show it to my wife, I show it to my youngest daughter, and they say, oh, gee, why all of the colors? Why is the whole yellow? Why are those things that hold the ropes? Why are they not equally spaced? Oh, it looks like you used notebook paper for the sails, blah, blah, blah. So, it is what it is.
Very good.
Yeah. Just to clarify, I'm sure that you probably missed his presentation. He was talking about the number of figures. He had made some mistakes with a door on the United States, so he just put a figure in front of the mistake to hide it. So that's why he was saying you don't have many mistakes if you only have 5 figures.
Oh, now I understand. Okay, fine. Gene, let me tell you, I'm looking at you. Well, Sean running into the same thing. When you do these things and you take photographs and you blow them up on the monitor, they're 3, 4, 5 times what they actually offer to the naked eye. So any least little mistake you'll see. And I'm not kidding. I look at your work and I look at your photographs and I compare it to the actual thing. And frankly, except for the background, I can't tell the difference.
Well, at least the photographs that I'm willing to share. No, I've said it before that I use a camera as a tool. And I'll often take a lot of different angled pictures, close-ups and things. And it's amazing what the lens will see that the eye just never does. I mean, it's uncanny. Even just viewing the boat through the camera lens, you don't even have to take a picture. Take your phone and just kind of scan the hull, scan the model with it, and it will pick up things that you just miss. Things, minor little things, alignment, square, things like that. I'm not really talking about the finish, although that does show up badly sometimes. But the camera is an invaluable tool in that regard.
I can say I do the same.
What was that?
I said I can say I do the same. It is very good tool. Kevin, anything to show us today?
No, I don't have anything. Been working on remodeling the house still.
Okay, well, good luck with that. Stuart?
No, nothing today.
Okay. Tom usually doesn't have anything. You can speak up now. Rylan?
Yes, got my rowboat, as Tom calls it. Let me share the screen. Did that share?
Yep.
Okay, well, this is where my longboat stands right now. Finally got, the mast, everything in, started the rigging. And, this is the, also fitted the pedestals for the boat. I wish I had done it a lot sooner because I laid the boat upside down in my lap over top of some loose rags and tried to sand them down to get them to fit properly. I was afraid I was going to break off these thole pins here, but I lucked out and everything worked out fine. Once I got those fitted, then I moved into rigging the longboat here. This is the stern section. And this is a gaff. If you look right here, I got a thimble in there. That's something that Chuck had showed in the instructions on how to make those, and it turned out pretty good. You'll see some more later on here. There's some work there of where the mast and the boom attach.
Rylan, that's
opted to go with the-
beautiful, beautiful job. Just a quick question on the belaying pins. You turn those yourself?
Yes.
What did you use to turn those?
Used a Dremel. It was some boxwood. What I did, the instructions, well, not really the instructions, but I turned the bottom piece first, the shaft. Well, first thing I did, I took the length of boxwood, and the boxwood came in the kit, and I made it 8-sided because I didn't want to start off with a square. So I basically just took a sanding stick and knocked off the edges to make them look like a eight square here. And then I turned the bottom half, and then I put the bottom half into the Dremel, and then that's when I turned the upper part. It probably made about 6 or 7 of them before I finally got 4 that were pretty close together. I'm not that good at doing it, so.
That's really nice. Really nice.
Yeah, it turned out a lot nicer. The shafts were a little wobbly, and I originally didn't glue them in, but to keep them standing upright, because the way this line is tied off, it pulled the top toward the stern. And when I tied the front one off, it pulled the top, it made it almost look like a Y shape there. So I went on and just, untied everything, put a little glue in, stuck some glue up under the bottom here. Which you can't see, white glue. And then I straightened everything up, let it set overnight, and they were pretty strong. So now they won't move. But, I guess had I turned them a little bit lighter, I would have had that problem.
Hey, Rylan?
Yes.
I got to tell you, this is half-inch scale. So it's so the detail, you have to show every detail. Like for example, your seasons and stuff. You don't need to do that in the smaller scales because you frankly can't see it. But in this scale, you have to do it, and they look great. They really, really look great.
Well, thank you. I spent a lot of time on it trying to get it right, and
Well, let's put it this way, you nailed it.
Thank you.
It's
Yeah, it
extremely
looks-
clean work.
Beautiful job.
It's very clean work. Very clean work.
And
All I can say is I picked the right coach.
And this is, where the gaff is I got some seasons in there, and I replaced the rollers. What came in the kit were some real glossy glass looking beads, and I went to Hobby Lobby, and for $1.99 I probably got 200 or 300 in a little tube of these, the same size as what the kit had, but these are matte black, and it just looked like it matched the wood. So I was real happy with that. I did do a little weathering around the bands. This is actually chart tape. Well, I think down here I had to cut some, this band is a little bit wider than the ones at the top of the mast, but I took some rusty brown weathering powder and put around it. Okay, then here are the thimbles. This was a really fun exercise. This is 1/16 of an inch brass tubing. And I made the thimbles by, first taking my little saw, razor saw, and cutting off a small piece. And then using a punch, I put in the, I flared both sides out. At one time I was having a problem because I kept caving in the side. And then when I looked at my tubing, I saw that the hole in the tube wasn't in the middle. So I just changed size on the tube that I had purchased. It was a K&S brass tubing, 1/16 of an inch. And then I blackened it. Had a problem with the blackening, as you can see right here, when I put it in the block, when I strobed it, I lost some of my blackness on it. I mean, I had cleaned it off, let it soak in vinegar, all kinds of stuff and all. But what you see right here, I probably had an equal amount that were rejects. It took a while to get them right. And if you look at this one right here, it's off a little, and that really doesn't make any difference because once you put the strobe around here, it you don't see it being off.
Hey, Rylan, frankly, I mean, one of the things that I find myself getting into, and that I've seen other things, is that, you get used to builders models and that kind of thing, and everything looks pristine. Okay. These are, it's a longboat. It's a fancy longboat, but it's a working boat. Nobody's going to go back and repaint thimbles that get dinged up in service, and in a saltwater environment they're obviously going to rust. So this looks like a working thimble. It's great.
Well, you can hardly see it on the boat. I mean, this is this is a I think it's, I forgot what size block it is, maybe 3/16 of an inch or something. It's not big. I mean, this is magnified many, many times. As you can see, I did do a little work on the blocks trying to get the rope. I took my file and file down so that when the rope goes in the block, it will, look like it comes out. It just kind of fits the block a little easier. You can see it up here. See how it goes in and out?
It's exquisite work, Rylan. It looks great.
No, it's beautiful, Rylan. I was trying to do something similar to what you've done here on the Cheerful. I didn't come close to what you've been able to achieve, but when I was cutting that K&S tubing, it was collapsing on me. And actually, Tom Ruggiero gave me a great tip. He said, just stick a toothpick inside, and that worked. When I used the razor saw and cut it, it didn't deform it as much. I don't know if you've had any issue with that when you were trying to cut it. But every time I'd cut it, it would sort of deform, it would crush in a little bit,
Yeah.
The blackening is really finicky. The prep's really important, and there's a really good set of instructions on MSW that I think Greg Herbert put up. But I started cleaning with Sparex, the stuff that you pickle after you silver solder. And that seems to do a lot. I mean, it's really noxious, and I don't like having it sitting in the shop, but it does a much better job, prepping the metal than vinegar and stuff seems to do.
Yes, I'm getting ready to put in, I guess, the dead eyes and things, and the straps that hold them, they got to be blackened, and I'm kind of afraid now. What I did find, if I took a wire brush on my Dremel and try to clean everything off, it seemed to help a lot too. but you know, blackening is, it will flake off. And I've used Jack's and also have some black in it that I've had for many years. I don't think it's gone bad. In fact, the black in it seems to work better. They don't make it anymore, but it you know, just seems to do better. But you know, so this is, you know, a real close-up view of the stroping there. And there's another, and you can see the thimbles and all, and they see, you hardly see it once you put the hook in there. And you can see, you know, if the bass has some sheaves in it. Chuck had in his instructions said to take some pencil and just highlight it, and it does. You can see them when you looking right into them, but you know, kind of just set it from being all solid black in that slot right there.
All I can say is I picked the right coach.
The right, who's, oh, is that Floyd?
Yes.
Okay, yeah, you see what you're up for when you get to.
If I do half as well, I'll be happy.
Oh man, I tell you, Chuck says that I have overanalysis paralysis. I mean, I think about this stuff too much, and that's why it's taken me a year. And well, actually, it was 2 years on the 10th here since I've received my kit. So,
Hey, Rylan,
yes.
just, I seem to recall once upon a time, somebody told me with blackening that understanding that what the blackening really does is it oxidizes the brass.
Mhm.
He took his parts and just rolled them around in sawdust. Now, I don't know exactly what, but just to even it out, you know, so,
Yeah.
but again, understanding that you don't want it to look too perfect. If some of the blackening flakes off, as long as you don't get shiny brass coming through, I look at it as weathering, frankly.
Right. I'm okay with it. I mean, from the naked eye, it looks fine. So, but that's that's
happy
where
with
I'm
the
at on the
teasing.
boat right now. So that's probably about as far as I've ever come on any of the models I've built. Is because y'all know me. It's, you know, I've been in the club for 20 years, and you know, and I've got another longboat, the little 148 scale that you know, I'll probably go on and finish that one once I finish this one, because it looks like I'm getting close. You know, all I gotta do is do the shrouds and then the bowsprit, and it's basically done. But
Are those Chuck's pedestals?
yes.
Now, did you pin those to the keel anyway, or the
Oh,
whole?
it's just sitting on there right now.
Excuse me?
I haven't decided how I'm going to do that. You know, I'm going to use his pedestals, but I don't know whether just to glue it on or what. I don't know how Chuck did his. He never mentioned.
Yeah,
And I actually,
I'm wondering, because usually what I do is before I get too far along in the hull, in with the hull, I decide how I'm going to display it. And
right.
what I've done on occasion is threaded a rod into the keel.
Mm-hmm.
But for this particular model, even in 1/2 inch scale, that's going to really weaken the keel. You really can't do that. So
Right.
I'm just wondering how you're going to, you know, keep it from sliding off the pedestals.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I think Chuck, all he did was glue his. I actually helped him move it when we were up in Pennsylvania for the show, and it was attached somehow. It wasn't just sitting there. It was attached. I thought about maybe putting a pin. Let's see. Oh, yeah, I'm sharing the screen, but you know, I could put a pin in there possibly, and you know, put some CA or something to hold it, and then maybe some more there to hold it on the hole, and because hopefully you're not, you know, it's not will be moved around much like on its, you know, laying over or whatever. You know, if I move it, hopefully I'll be very careful, or if somebody else moves, it'll be very careful. But anyway, just some of the tools I used. I wanted to show this. These little nippers right here, I got them from Walmart. They're called, just regular toenail clippers. And these things are unreal as far as getting in and trimming lines and cutting my string. I mean, this is a valuable tool, and I didn't realize how much I would be using that, but it worked out pretty good. And using the thimbles, I first used a punch I had in the garage, and that didn't work. So I went to Harbor Freight, got this thing right here. That didn't work. So I disassembled it. And if you can look right here, you can see a point. And so I just used this piece and hammered this in right here. And that's what I used to make my thimbles. But that's where I'm at. But let's see, stop share. But these little, let's see, clippers. I mean, these things right here, they're flush cut, and I mean they.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
You got them at Walmart?
Yeah.
Okay.
Toenail clippers.
I want to look for those.
Yeah, I want to look for
And
those.
I mean, they are sharp. It even comes with a guard right here to
Oh, I thought
put
that
over.
was a
But I
toenail.
mean, I can get up in there with the sharpness, the point, and just clip the string, and it does pretty good. So that's where I'm at. Maybe I'll get this thing finished.
Looks great, Rylan.
Thank you.
Yeah, I was happy with the sizings on my model until I saw yours, so thanks for
Oh.
that.
It's just a matter of working with it,
Yeah.
But yeah, it's works out.
All right, Ulrich, do you have anything today?
Yeah, let me go grab it. My model of the Berlin. Let me get the camera and move it around. I have done some work on, well, finished the rails. They're out of Swiss pear. And I've done most of the decorations. Which mostly is metal, bronze. They all had to be cleaned up and filed and what have you. The window frames are made out of wood. And I'm partially painting it so far, but of course the paint job will become after I've finished all the woodwork. These little boxes here protect the few guns that I already have installed. The clinker planking is something I changed from the kit version that was not on there. I did many different issues with this thing. There's a lot of things that don't work right on the plans. You see the front. See if I have my cable long enough to reach it. Otherwise, I'll turn the boat around. Let me see. So now I've started working on the beak head. And that seems to be very, very difficult getting the horse cheeks or knees done. This is the halyard down, a fall that is connected. All the openings are closed up so that I don't get any dust in there. Most of the, what do you call them, little gadget that goes on there, like capstan pump and so on, they're already done. The plan calls for these two openings to be closed with doors. I left that off and have the two guns that are underneath this quarter deck already installed. Maybe I can show you when I open this up again. I don't know if I have enough light in here. Let me see. Keep out of the way. Hope you can see this. It's not going to be. There's a gun and part of the anchor cable hanging loose there. I don't have enough light in this room here to show that. Perhaps if I get a flashlight. You hold on a second, I get a flashlight. There's one of the guns. And so that's so far in progress on this model. Most of the parts are done, like the rudder and the whip staff and most of the other gadget that goes on there. I don't remember all the names. And of course, I think I mentioned it before, this was an old kit with a warped false keel and bent that I had in a jig for over a year, and then ended up making it a solid hull below the main deck. Unfortunately, I don't have any other pictures. The gun ports are there. Whales. I'm gonna paint this section here all green all the way up to the front. And the whales I will probably stain in a dark walnut stain, and then the rest will be getting a coat of wood oil. Well, this is about it. Any questions? No? Good. Does this work?
All right, thanks, Ulrich.
You're welcome. My pleasure.
Ulrich, what was the name of that boat?
Berlin. It's a Corel kit. I had an older kit bought on eBay that was missing most of the parts, and the wood that's applied was mahogany for the planking and everything. I threw all that away and bought walnut strips, 2 millimeter thick by 5 millimeter, and it was very, very difficult to plank with that thickness to get the bend in it, the form. And there was many different difficulties and problems regarding the plans. I'm still trying to figure out the rigging plan because there's many ropes, lines that show no belaying point in the plan. They just end up in nowhere land. So I'll have to add a lot of cleats. For instance, if you look at this section here, this part here, there's supposed to be a belaying pins in there. But this is about, you see where my finger's sticking out, nobody could reach those belaying pins from the main deck because this is the main deck right behind it. Nobody was able, you would have had a step ladder or sit on somebody's shoulder to get to this point here to do any belaying of any ropes. So therefore, I will not put belaying pins in here. Here you have belaying pins, and here you will have belaying pins. But here you can see on my size of my fingers, anybody can reach this. So there's a problem with this area here. I don't know where to belay these ropes. I probably will have to tie them up on the rail that is right there.
Ehrlich?
Yeah.
I don't know history for this type of a ship for a German ship or German or whatever. But I can tell you that belaying pins in English ships didn't show up until the late 1700 until the late 18th century.
I heard of that, and
Yeah.
I agree with you on that. But
So you might want to take a look at Marquardt or some of the other things, because you might have cavell heads or timber heads, or simply just belayed or simply just wrapped around the rail.
I have made a lot of cavils, I call them. You know,
Yeah.
cavell. I've made a bunch of them already according to the plans, and a few of the ropes and lines are being attached to those. But there's by far not enough room for all the cavils I would need.
Yeah.
So I would probably end up. I mean, tying them up, tying the ropes around the rails is something I will have to do, because I can't put any belaying pins on some of the areas that nobody could have reached to begin with. I'm not sure what I'm going to do here. I might just time around the ropes, like you said. But it's we're studying. And what was the reference you gave me on?
There's Heinz Marquardt.
Oh yeah, I have a book by him.
Yeah. There's also, well, see, the problem is a lot of the references I have are for colonial U.S. and English practice. There are books on French practice. You know what? If you have any books by Abe Hoving.
No, I don't know him.
He's the curator of the Vasa Museum. I'm thinking period wise that these two ships are probably about the same period.
1675.
Yeah. So he might, you know, if you look at some of the belaying points, if you pick up any, maybe even off the web, if you pick up some of the belaying points that the Vasa had, that might be a good clue.
Okay. Yeah, this is Dutch built, and I guess they sold it to the Brandenburg electorate, whatever they call this.
Yeah, it's interesting. It's interesting that you say that, because I heard Abe give a presentation one time, and the funny thing about it is that what they found is that the Vasa was actually made by two teams of shipwrights from different countries. And one built the starboard side and one built the port side. So the actual prototype ship, the right side doesn't match the left side.
Yeah.
Is that why it sunk?
Yeah. So if you built the model that way, you would get some wise guy in a museum saying, "Oh, it's inaccurate because the two sides don't match." Well, actually, they didn't match. And I think one of the teams that built the Vasa came from the Netherlands. So that might help you.
Well, I have been looking at some pictures of a book, Dutch merchant ships of the 17th century. And that's where I got some of the ideas of changing the planking on the side of the hull to a clinker planking, and some other ideas of what, and I do have different plans for this model. I have a book by a German guy, I forgot his name, but there's no pictures available, no drawings available on this of this ship. It's just a very short description. Even the colors of the decorations and so forth is all, I made it up, you know. I just thought everybody painted the way they wanted it, and so I did the same. I chose the colors, and I decided on changing the situation on the rails and so forth. And I feel like I'm the captain of the ship, and I do what I want with it.
You betcha.
Yeah, yeah, I will go ahead and do some research on the belaying of all the ropes and sheets and so forth, and see.
You might also find some stuff on Model Ship World.
Okay.
It'll help you there too.
Well, I've seen this one guy from Turkey having a build log of this model, but strictly based on the kit, which I deviated from quite a bit. Yeah. And he has done all these belaying pins according to the plan. So that did not give me any idea of how to change that and which way to go on this issue.
Ulrich, they probably did more than one line to each of the kevels, which may explain.
Yeah, because it has the two like looks like an antler basically. Yeah, yeah. So yeah, at least 2 lines for each kevel, maybe even more. But it's still not going to be enough because it's going to be a full rig ship. You know, and there's dozens and dozens of ropes and lines that need to be attached somehow. And I know that the front rail, the plans actually show that on the front rail, there's at least 12 or 16 lines that are wrapped around the rail itself. So I will do that definitely, but like when you look at the rails here on the side, they all have belaying pins, yeah. And I'm not sure yet what I'm going to do about that. I will have to. I will use a bunch of cleats that I have plenty of. Yeah.
The Voss is pre-1600. The Mayflower, which granted is British, is 1620s, so it's closer to the age of yours. And that one's been pretty heavily researched.
Well, I will spend. Well, I'm still, you know, I'm in the middle of woodwork, you know, doing the beak head and doing all the knees and all that for the front, for the beak. So that'll take me a couple of more weeks at least. And once I have the most of the woodwork done, I will go ahead and start finishing the painting and sealing it, and then starting the to install all the little jewels, like Gene called it on his boat, like the capstan, the pumps, and so forth, and the guns, which are already made. Just need to make the tackles for the guns. And once that is done, I will mount it on its final mounting base, you know, with pedestals and a support in the middle. And that's when I will have to start looking at the rigging and, you know, find out where am I going to belay all this. But it's a kit. It's not a, you know, it's not historically accurate. You know, there's many things that I would say sometimes look like they're ridiculous, you know, on the kit. So I might just go ahead and say a kit is a kit. I do it the way they describe it, and, you know, it's done with it. Well, that's it.
Thanks again. David?
Is it okay if I share my screen?
Of course, you don't have to ask.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear that. Oh, okay. Screen sharing.
All right. So I have a couple things to show. One is I got a new toy. I mill all my own wood, and I've always struggled with getting, you know, a lot of it's like the pair that I use is from a 5/4 thick slab of a tree, and it's really hard to do unless you have a flat side to start with. And I've always struggled with the tools that I've had. So I finally broke down and got a joiner, and this is a little one, but I never worked with pieces of wood more than 3 feet, so a benchtop one was fine. And it's been magic. When I had to mill the decks for my ship, you know, these are 1/4 inch, they're scale 4-inch, but they're 1/4 inch by 16th inch planks. And the burn saw is pretty powerful, but if you try to cut something where your side is not straight, especially if it's a 1/4 inch thick, it'll bind and give you saw marks. And so, you know, it took me like 2 nights to get the jointer all dialed in, but I started, you know, I milled a 1/4 inch blank of boxwood, and then, you know, sliced very easily into 16th inch thick boards. It's been like magic. It makes the milling a lot safer and easier than trying to put, you know, non-flat boards through a big table saw. And I think there's a lot less wood wasted than I was trying to do with sanding and planes and stuff. So that's been fun. In terms of the ship itself, this is the NRG plans for the Oyster Sharpie, and there's a lot more progress than it looks like. I mean, each month when I've shown it, I've had a pile of pieces, and I just reached the point where I could glue them all in. So the removable floor, the centerboard case, the thwarts, the deck clamps, the inner framing, the beams are all in, and everything that's not a gluing surface internally has gotten some white bond poly on it. And it's beginning to come along. So the next step will be the deck. But it's, it's feeling like it's a boat now. And I think I'm just going to stick to the 2 color woods that I'm using, just about all boxwood with a little bit of picking out in Swiss pear.
Looks very good, Dave.
Thanks.
Beautiful.
Does look good.
Yeah, I've been following your build in Model Ship World, and it's really a nice build.
Yeah, it's been interesting because it's also, the guys who designed it put a ton of work into it, but their instructions don't always work so well. And the other 2 builders I hope they've just paused and not stopped, but there isn't anyone else that's done this at this point. So it's been kind of interesting to try to puzzle things out. And there are a couple things that I tried to document that I did pretty differently than the way they described in the instructions that I think would be a lot easier.
Looks really good. Thank you. Shall we move on, or is there more?
Nope.
Okay. Let's see. I'm having trouble here. Okay, Don, I think you're next. If you have anything to show.
All right. I had a friend call me and he says, "You remember the boat we used to fish on?" "Yeah." "Can you build me a model of it?" And I go, "Well, no, because the boat's no longer with us." He says, "Well, I got a couple pictures." All right. So this is kind of working. She's a dead rise, and she was converted to a head boat. Slide this back. So this is where we stand. I'm about ready to deliver it to him. I've got to put the name on it and everything. But there was an anchor yanker up front, and he wanted that, and some of the other features. We drank a lot of beer on the bench inside. I don't know if you can see that. There we go.
Where are they empty?
All right. Of course, there was a canopy to keep us all from getting sunburnt, but that didn't work real well either. I did detail the house somewhat. The only thing I didn't put back in was the widescreen TV to watch the O's on when we fished up there. I've only used, I think there's 1, 2, 8 commercial parts. Everything else I've manufactured or made. The seats are padded. But it was a fun build. I had to mill all the lumber, stave the bow. I know a lot of other folks down here that build these boats. Apparently it's plywood sides and Bondo for the front. And I'm figuring if you're going to do it right. Again, she's cross hatched or cross planked on the bottom. There is a little bit of flare in the hull like the original boat. Kind of see it right about in here somewhere, but it turned out pretty good. The house on the boat was rebuilt to accommodate more people, because it was actually a small house, because this was a fairly large dead rise that they were using with big drums on the back to drag out their nets and everything. But I think she turned out pretty well, and I'll put the name on the boat for my buddy, and hopefully he'll get it in the next couple of weeks here, or certainly before Christmas when he wants it. So anyhow, I should have taken more pictures. I will do that and we can show those later, but it actually turned out pretty good. I've still got the protective covering on the glass inside and some things to do, but it's pretty much ready for delivery.
I'm sure he's going to be pleased with it.
I hope so. He's been so far. He's been real happy with the photographs and everything I've sent him. So, anyhow, that's what I have, and hopefully I'll have something else next month.
Beautiful build.
Thank you
Thank
very
you.
much. Let's see, John Cheevers, do you have anything to show this month?
No, I don't. I didn't get a chance to get anything ready.
All right.
So,
Mr. Kirschner, are you going to share anything with us today?
Sure, I might as well. Let's see if I can share a photo. By the way, Ryland, you're shortchanging everybody. The base to that Chuck provides, it's so beautiful with that bird's eye wood.
It is a nice base, and I'm probably working on that in the next week or two here.
Does that come across?
We're seeing your Explorer window, but not the photo you opened.
Oh,
I
okay.
think when you shared the Explorer app in particular rather than the entire screen.
All right, so let me,
Just hit stop sharing and then reshare either the entire screen or the photo app. Either one would work.
well,
You have to stop sharing and then share a different.
I'm trying to find where to stop share.
I
That's,
think it's. Well,
For me, it was at the top of the screen,
Yeah,
at the top.
dead center.
I can stop it for you.
Go ahead.
All right.
I'll do the old fashioned way. So I've almost, by the way, Tom, my thoughts are, if you put this much work into it, you put it in a case.
Oh, yeah, you do. Just
Um, At any rate, as you can see, I've down to 2 strakes left on the starboard side, and I've got about 3-4 strakes on the port side. I'm really enjoying the scale. I think I prefer the larger scale so you can get more detail. Ryland's been helping me with, I'm not quite coming out correct on the number of strakes versus the frames. It looks like I'm going to end up with a little extra wood. And Ryland, I'm really curious what you did when you came out with not enough wood. I can't believe what you would have to do with the frames to get that right. And you're right, I'm less than a 16th of an inch off, so I'm guessing it's not going to be too big a deal.
I was just a little over, and I think maybe I may have over beveled, taking off too much wood off of the frames, but in the long run, it doesn't make any difference.
So you're talking about when you faired the frames themselves?
That's quite possible, yes.
Okay. Because everybody's talking about fairing the individual planks. And I can only see 1 or 2 places where that would make sense to me. Although every time I look at somebody's photos of their planking, it looks so much better than mine. They're much tighter and so on.
Lloyd, what they're talking about is as you go around the frame, okay, what's going
Right.
to happen is that if you don't bevel the planks slightly on the inside radius, You're always going to
Okay.
have a gap. You can't, it won't be possible to get them close enough together. So
Ah.
that's what they're talking about beveling, and it's not a lot. It's really not a lot. It's very, very shallow, a very, very shallow bevel. And conversely, on the aft part of the craft, where you have a little bit of a hollow under okay, in that case the bevel's in the other direction.
Okay.
All right, so it's very, very subtle, but in this scale with planks this wide, it does make a difference.
Are you beveling all of the planks?
What you do is you do a trial fit, you do a dry fit, and
Mhm.
you cinch them together. And if you see a gap, that means that you need to, you know, if you form the wood, and understanding that these planks are all pre-spiled, so spiling done. Okay, so what you do is you put your planks together, you butt it together. If you see a gap, even after you're trying to squeeze it down, that means that you need to bevel. Now, in prototype practice, they take a bevel off of both planks, the upper one and the lower one.
Mhm.
In the model, don't worry about it. Just take it all off of the same side, off of one plank.
Okay, makes sense. You make me want to take all the planks off and start over there.
I don't want to suggest that. Like if you get to the top and you're only a 1/16 of an inch proud, just take it down to the tops of the frames and be done with it. Nobody's going to measure it.
Well, the Admiral is telling me this is the best planking I've ever done, so I guess it's gonna pass QC.
You're fine with it. Go with it.
There's always Bondo.
Well, all I can say is that I've had my share of Viking burials.
All right, thanks for sharing, Floyd.
Thank
Dean,
you.
you gonna share anything with us? Do you have a project going?
Do not. I'm trying to figure out what I'm going to do over this apparently long winter that we're going to have to all live with.
Yeah.
Number of years ago, I built a scratch model of a T2 tanker, and I'm sort of thinking that I'm going to buy a kit from Blue Water for a Liberty ship or perhaps a Victory ship. They're somewhat alike, not exactly, of course, to go with the T2. When I did the T2, I got plans from Smithsonian and got my buddy John Cheevers to put them on a magical little device over at the shipyard and reduce them all to the same scale that was a workable scale, because those plans, when they come from the Smithsonian, about 10 feet long. So something for the winter, but nothing right at the moment.
All right, we'll look forward to seeing what you do start. Mr. Brown, you have anything today?
So I told you folks last time I finished the Cheerful. So right now I'm in sort of a research phase for my next project. I'm zeroing in on a Hudson River sloop design out of approximately circa 1850. Boat was built in Nyack, New York on the Hudson. So I'm doing research on that. It's a swing keel design. The plans are in Paul Fontenoy's book, Sloops of the Hudson River. He put this out in the 90s through Mystic Seaport Press. But just getting various research on it, I spoke to somebody up in Hudson River Maritime Museum who's done some underwater archaeology on some of these, and he's telling me that the swing keel actually didn't go, in a lot of cases, through the center of the keel. It was offset adjacent to the keel. So looking at that. So right now, still just in the research phase. I haven't cut any wood yet, but stay tuned.
Hank, how about you?
Okay, I was wondering if I was gonna make it back up. Can I share here?
Of course.
Okay, this is HMS Beagle that I've been working on. I finished all of the deck furniture, and that's the overall view. That's the bow side there. And all this dark wood here and around the sides. This piece here. I was thinking that this was all mahogany, but it turns out it's wood called sapelli. It's an African hardwood, very similar to mahogany. And it's really nice wood to work with. It's got a good grain, and the finish is just a clear coat. No need to stain or anything. This is all around these hatches, and the picture's not good. It's kind of washed out, but around these hatches is all sapelli. Around these hatches here. Here's the aft area. The cannons on Beagle were brass, and if I just painted them brass, they'd just be too bright. So the suggested technique was to paint everything black and then dry brush the brass on, which I did, and it gives it a nice patina of kind of weathered brass cannons. These hatches here, two of these are just vents. The center one here does have a hatch for going below, and it's planked in the second planking of sapelli and around the sides. And obviously my work is not perfect to where things really join up tight together, but and there was some gaps in some of these corners, even sanding and everything I couldn't get out. So I come up with a trick. I put a drop of CA glue in there and sanded on top of it while it was still wet. And the sawdust kind of blended in with it and filled the gaps for me.
How did you do the hammocks?
Excuse me?
The hammocks, I think that's what they are, the white things. How did you do those?
Oh, these here on the sides?
Yeah.
Oh, they were three. It was they were laser cut in the kit, and then on the sides it was sapelli 2x2s that you put on each side, and then glued all together and set it down, and then paint over it. And railing here is all eye bolts and just line. The clear coat, you see this is sapelli right across here too. And underneath, these are cabin doors on the sides here, and a closed wheel, 2 compasses. Oh, so I had talked about, well, since this was a survey ship and it had 7 small boats on it, and the kit comes with 4, I was going to try and scratch build the other 3 because I've got Marquardt's Anatomy of the Ship book. But I started realizing why they didn't include them on the kit. 2 of the boats hang between this support, and both of these get tied down upside down on there. If you put those on, you're not going to see the details of the decking underneath. So I think that's why they didn't put it on. And then I started thinking, as a survey ship, and from the books I've been reading about Beagle's voyages, not all the boats were on the ship all the time. They were out surveying. And sometimes when they came across a river or something, they would send a cutter or a yawl or some of the longboats or something upriver for a couple 100 miles. So I guess the only time that all of the boats were on board is when they were moving total locations that they wouldn't come back, or the initial crossing. So I'm sad I'm not going to put these 2 boats on there, which will also save me the learning curve of how to scratch build small boats. So I got that much done. And so on the clear coat though, I've been working with the last couple of models I've done with gel stains, because I wasn't happy with, some of these woods are so hard, penetrating stains can come out a lot blotchy. So the gel stains, I really liked. I had a lot more success with that. So I wanted to try a gel stain clear coat. And so I got a Varathane. I had to buy a quart, and I think I've used maybe an ounce or 2, but really nice stuff. It's thick and it just goes on where you want it, and you just brush it out and it dries to a nice sheen, nice, really satiny kind of sheen, just very, very light. And also after putting all this stuff on the deck, obviously I scratched up the deck in a bunch of places. So I put a final coat on top, and that gel kind of healed a lot of those scratches that were on there. So I'm liking that stuff. And this is the hull, and this second planking on the hull is 1 millimeter by 3 millimeter sapelli, and there's no stain on it or anything. That's the color of the wood. You know, it's really close to mahogany, having that reddish look to it. And then a few coats of the clear coat on top to give that finish there. So what I'm working on now is the 4 small boats that come with the, I better shrink my size down a little bit here. Oops. Well, anyway, don't want to do it. There we go. See, that works. Okay. So working on small boats, and they're all planked on frames. The first time I've ever planked anything this small. And so what you're supposed to do is, this is 1 by 3 millimeter planking, and you take the strips, sand them down, and then you put a sapelli dye on both sides of it. And I didn't have sapelli dye, and I haven't worked with dye. I remember Patrick talking to me one time about dyes that he used. So I had to order this stuff from, I found it on Cornwall's site in England. And the last time I had to order something from Spain, it took 5 months to get here because it's COVID stuff. And I said, so damn, I was going to be building these boats. I'm going to need to stain. So I paid for extra shipping on it. And the first email I got was about it's been shipped, which meant it was still in England, but it had been sent out for shipping. And then a couple of days later, I got an email that said delayed. And I said, oh, damn, how many months is it going to take to get this stuff? But anyway, 3 weeks it took to get a bottle of this stuff in here. But somehow I screwed up when I was ordering it to, I originally started with one type of shipping. I thought I had canceled that and I went for the extra shipping. So it took 3 weeks. It took 2 weeks to get this bottle. And then on the third week, I got another bottle came in. So I got 2 bottles of this stuff. And again, I'm probably only using, an ounce or 2 out of 1 bottle. So if anybody wants to try that stuff, it's available. So I did do that, did both sides, but naturally, my planking's not going to be perfect. And so once they were planked, I had to sand and shape them, get them down. So I forgot to put another coat of the dye on it, naturally, because that's sanded off of the outside here. And it didn't stay. It stuck like a penetrating stain. There was some areas where it just would not stick to the wood after it had been sanded. It went on really nice when it was just bare wood out of the kit sanded down and then the dye put on top. But once you sand it off, it just, a lot of places didn't stay on very well. So I had to go get a crayon and color it in, and it's going to get some clear coat on top of it once it's done anyway. And it's the bottoms. So who's going to look up underneath of the bottoms and see some of these things here, or some of it's the size, so I'll have to fix that. But anyway, so this is the inside then. And the inside, the stain did come out much better. And the stain didn't have to mess with that. The stain came out, and then I've got the bottom planks are all in there. So the next thing is finishing up. There's a whole lot of pieces that go on to the rest of these small boats here, and that's the next thing I'll be working on. So that's my story.
Nice.
Very nice. John, Mr. Crowley, do you have anything today?
Not today. We'll
Okay.
catch up next month, hopefully.
And I think John Cork is the last person, but he doesn't have video. Hope you're doing well. He doesn't have audio either. I think he can only listen. I don't think he has a microphone. Hope you're doing well, John. So that's it for presentations, I think. Unless I missed someone, please speak up.
I do have one other little thing I'd like to add in for Tom's benefit. We were talking about figures earlier, and I wanted to show a suggestion of what he might want to add to his boat, just the number of figures. There we go.
With the woman in the bikini.
Well, she's in there anywhere, somewhere. So, yeah, I evidently did not have a lot of faith in my workmanship, hence the numerous figures. But
They're not socially distanced either.
no, the boat's been there for a while.
Where's
And
the mast?
the last one, that's one of my favorite pictures of figures on the boat. So,
God bless you, Gene. They look great.
they add a lot of life. They certainly.
Yeah.
The deck chairs would look great on the Liverpool.
I mean, I can imagine that right there on the forecastle. Anyway, this is 1/8 inch scale, and just thought you might be amused at seeing that angle.
Oh, I am. Thank you, John. Thank you, Eugene.
Hey, Gene, where are you getting your figures? To me, one of the biggest challenges is getting figures of the right scale for our models.
Well, these figures are HO railroad figures.
Okay.
The model is 1/8 inch scale, so HO is dangerously close enough. You know, they're good, healthy, people. You know, some of them may be a little bit tall, and I had to kind of pull them out of the mix. But if you go through it, you can. It's reasonable. They're not outside the realm of possibility. But yeah, HO figures is what those particular figures are. But with the advent of 3D printing, figures is not a problem in the exact scales anymore. I use a lot of the 3D printed figures in my boats now, and they're perfect. I think they're much better than the railroad figures you get that were plastic.
Well, I do a lot of 3D printing, but I don't have the equipment that Shapeways has.
Oh no,
Their quality far exceeds mine.
Yeah, no, I don't. I just buy. I'm a consumer there. I can't afford a 3D printer. Not one that has that kind of resolution. Besides the learning curve of 3D CAD, I'm too old to learn anything new.
Probably not.
That's what I'm saying.
Okay, let me rephrase that. I'm too lazy to learn anything new.
So if I may, Gene, do you guys have, they're usually called Makerspace?
I'm not familiar with that.
The concept, it's been around for about 8 or 9 years, but the concept is there are people, unlike us crazy people, who don't have enough room for a shop. Either they live in an apartment or a small house or can't afford the tools. And for example, the one that I belong to is $50 a month, and I have access to a full-size wood shop, a full-size metal shop, welding, 3D printing, electronics, plastic fabrication. It's about 2,000 square feet of warehouse space loaded with about $250,000 worth of tools.
Wow, that's pretty neat. Nothing around here like that.
And I have I basically have a card key with 24/7 access. I can go in anytime and do anything I want with any of those tools.
That sounds like a huge liability for them. They put you through a training course or just make you sign something.
You're right. Their insurance requires that you be trained on the tool before you touch it.
Mhm.
I think so.
But there's makerspaces all over the US and the UK. There's 3 of them here in the Seattle area.
Wow.
And at a future meeting, I'll share with you the 4-foot tugboat that I 3D printed.
Well, still not moving to Seattle, but good luck.
I'm sure I can find one closer to you. I'm told that the first makerspace was in Harvard.
All right, it looks like we've wrapped up show and tell.
I have
Alright.
one more question for Tom Ruggiero.
Yep.
Tom, could you please repeat the sources you mentioned to me regarding the rigging, belaying points, and so forth? So I can write them down?
Yeah, Abe Hoving, Hoving.
Not so quick, not so quick. HOV.
H-O-W-I-N-G,
Howing, okay,
okay? And it's the Vasa Museum in Stockholm,
okay, but you mentioned something else, right?
Marquardt.
Marquardt, yeah, must see, Marquardt. What's, I have a book here by him, I think. 18th century rigs and rigging, but that's 18th century.
There's also a book, and it may be a little bit beyond the period you're in, but it's called Rigging in the Age of the Sprit Sail Topmast. And that might help.
Okay, I will try to get information out of these sources and see what I can do.
And also try to model Shipworld as well.
Okay.
I mean,
yeah.
if you ask a question about belaying points, I'm like you might hook up with like David Ansholt. I mean,
Yeah,
Well, Abe Hoving is also on Model Ship World.
right.
Who?
Abe Hoving is also there. Yes.
Who was that?
Abe Hoving is also on Model
Oh,
Ship
okay,
World.
yeah, you mentioned that before. Well, I forgot what I was going to say. I understand the issue that belaying pins were not used most likely at the time frame that my model fits in. What I'm looking for is alternatives for that. Where were these ropes belayed? What were they belayed to? You know, that's because I already fabricated some belaying pin racks, which obviously are not suited for that period of time. You know, what the pin racks that go around the mast or in front of the mast, so I'll have to discard those. But I need to find out what was used instead.
They actually had on some of the masts, rather than pin rails that were like spider rails that went around,
Yeah.
they actually had a post that was nailed vertically to the mast, and then you had horizontal pegs going through.
Okay, I've seen that on one of my other models. What was it? The Dutch yacht, Mary.
Yeah.
Yeah, I made those on that. Yeah. Okay. I'll have to look at that. I need to figure out what to do about this because there's so many ropes, fully rigged. I don't know. We'll see. Thanks. I appreciate it.
You're welcome.
All right, anything else?
No, I'd just like to say that if you send me the pictures of your work, I'll put it in a logbook.
Will do, Tom.
Okay, Ryland's offered to do a presentation. We're already 2 hours and 15 minutes into the meeting. You guys have the stamina for a presentation, or should we hold off until next month?
I got to go somewhere else in a few minutes.
Yeah, and I gotta take
think
off too.
The show and tell was a presentation in itself. I mean, this has been great.
All right, unless, not hearing any resounding calls for presentation. Thanks for offering, Ryland. Maybe we'll put it off for another month.
Yes.
We're gonna have you do it in the Jersey Club too, Ryland.
There you go. That's right.
All right, well,
Tape it.
thanks for showing up, guys. It was a really good meeting. Thanks for all the great.
Great meeting, everybody. Good to see
Yeah.
everybody.
Oh,
See you guys.
Bill, your presentation next month is Ship Model Society in New Jersey. What was that on?
We've got the president of the Historical Shipwreck Divers Association and Museum, Dan Lieb.
Okay.
Wow.
Send me the information. I will get the information. So
We'll get it to you so you can get it out to all the guys.
Yeah, It's going to be in the broadax.
All right.
Take care, everybody.
Take care.
All right.
All right.
Bye.
All right, see ya.
Good seeing you all. Bye.
Bye.
John, did you do anything with the, oh, he took off. All right. See you guys.
Bye.
See you, Gene.